Hello, and welcome to the Viva Connections SharePoint Framework bi-weekly sync. It is December 2nd. I'm your host, Patrick Rodgers. We got a great call for you today. Our agenda, latest updates on SharePoint Framework, patterns and practices, updates across the program, our new community sample updates. We'll do our optional picture time, and then we've got great demos. The first from Julie Turner with an introduction of the HtwoO React component library she's been working on, and Frank Cornu and some guy named Mikkel Svensson, getting started with PnP Search Web Parts v4. Very excited for all of that. But first, opportunities to participate in the Patterns and Practices program. Demos. So we love folks to do demos on the call. So if you can reach out to myself or Vesa using the form down below, request a spot on the demo call, ak.ms/m365pnp request/demo. We'd love to have you on a call. We might not be able to get you on the exact immediate call, but we'll get you on a call just as soon as we can. So love to show off the work all of you are doing for your customers and your companies out there. In some cases, just make sure it's okay to show the work, but we'd love to have those samples and those demos presented on the call. You can also, of course, contribute on GitHub across any of our repositories. And that takes the form of reporting issues, submitting pull requests, helping with issues and questions. And of course, if you have the opportunity to help others with their issues and questions and have a few minutes, please welcome you in there to do that as well. And then, of course, we always welcome your feedback. How are these calls? How is our documentation? Where can we help? And of course, positive feedback is okay too. So we've got tons and tons of great content for you, all found at those various links there. But the first section there is Microsoft 365 developer videos. So these are videos focused on developer tasks, so setting up authentication, getting started with SPFx, getting started with Viva Connections ACE development, and so forth. You can find all of those at akms/m365dev YouTube. And then as well, the Microsoft 365 community videos. Those are going to be the recordings of our community events. So this call, the other bi-weekly Thursday call, the Microsoft 365 all-up call that's on Tuesdays. And then all of our other calls, other content can be found here around the community videos. So if you miss a call and want to catch up, certainly encourage you to do so. And then as well, open source, we have tons of great repositories across sort of the patterns and practices extended family. So github.com/sharepoint/pnp/office dev and /Microsoft Graph, all of which are looking for your feedback, contributions, ideas, and participation. You're welcome to participate in one or more of these as time and your interest allows. Certainly encourage you to get involved where you are interested. As well, tons of great samples. So Teams, SPFx Power Platform, SPFx extensions and list formatting samples, and more. Check those out. I always start there when I have a new project or trying to solve a new problem. I'm always curious to see how others might have approached that same thing. And then ak.ms/m365pnp is your link for the all-up Patterns and Practices homepage. That'll give you links out to the rest of this content. So you don't have to remember all those URLs. Just remember ak.ms/m365pnp. Next Tuesday, which is the 7th of December, which is crazy to say that. We're almost the end of 2021. We'll have our Microsoft 365 platform call. That's at 8 a.m. Pacific time. That's a weekly call, generally with Microsoft presenters covering the latest across the Microsoft 365 platform. Next week, we'll have Michael Aldridge, introduction to the Microsoft 365 Instant Sandbox, very cool new thing. Rajdeep Chandra, introduction to the Microsoft Graph Connectors SDK. And then Sebastian Levert with the Microsoft Graph Toolkit controls. Hopefully we'll have a little bit of time for Q&A there, but we don't always. Sometimes we have trouble getting to the Q&A because we have so much great content in the call. So I hope everybody can join us next Tuesday. Get the invite at ak.ms/m365-dev-call. Moving on then, we will pass this over to David for Sharing is Caring.
Thank you, Patrick. Well, friends, as we all know, it is an open source community, as Patrick identified, and that means you can absolutely use the resources or contribute back Although we understand that either of those options sometimes come with hurdles like navigating GitHub, perhaps you would like to present for the first time and you're not quite sure the details on how you could do that. Well, we are here to provide you hands-on guidance in a safe space opportunity. All of these sessions are hands-on. We're going to guide you through any of those topics together in a non-recorded environment. You're going to collaborate with others in the community, and we're going to get you involved all together. They are free, no cost, and we invite you to register for any or all of them. We are going to take it a little light for December just to give everybody a break, but we've got some of our more popular, like the first-time contributor and the Power Platform first-time contributor. And of course, we've got a number of upcoming AMAs. Those have been very popular, very collaborative, and we're looking at creating some open discussion ones that are much like the AMAs or the watch parties we had, where everybody can come in. There'll be a few of the PnP members there. So again, register aka.ms/sharing is caring. Now, once you do contribute back to the community, we want to celebrate it. So the PnP recognition program is here to celebrate all of the great work you're doing. It is powered by Credly. You've likely seen a number of these badges starting to come out, and this is just getting started. The independent publisher connectors is one of the newest. We've got script samples in the loop, SPFx samples, blog authors. The Hacktoberfest are going out. We're compiling all of those, so you're going to see those starting to trickle out. And again, we want to celebrate all the work you're doing. They are powered by Credly, as mentioned, which is the same badges that are powering the certification badges for Microsoft. So they're going to sit right next to it, show up on your LinkedIn. You can share it on Twitter, put it on your website, and really be proud of the work you're doing. We do need you to opt in, aka.ms/m365 PnP recognition, so that we can track and connect your Credly account to your GitHub account. Again, no cost. We cover the cost for you. So we'd love to have you part of that program. Go in and opt in. Patrick, back to you.
Awesome. Thanks for those great updates, David. Thanks to everybody that's participated in PnP and gotten your recognition. Hopefully you've all gotten that. And as well, check out those sharing is caring sessions. Fantastic way to get your questions answered and just talk to some folks if you have interest in getting started contributing to open source, not just with PnP, but it applies to any project. And now we'll hand things over to Vesa for SharePoint Framework updates. Vesa, take it away.
Thank you, Patrick. Just a reminder, right after last time when we had this call, so the Viva Connection and SPFx community call, we released the SharePoint Framework 1.13.1. So that's the newest one. So 1.13 had a small isolated regression. So there's a 0.1 version now available on that. So it's not a critical thing to upgrade into, but it's always good to use the latest version. Just to recap on the usage, actually pretty cool. So all-time highest usage on the SharePoint Framework usage is of Tuesday this week, because we're always 2 days behind of this particular report on the usage. But this gives us some sort of an idea on the level of a consumption of SPFx extensibility across Viva, Microsoft Teams, and SharePoint Online. And we have more than tens of millions, not thousands, tens of millions, quite a significant difference. Tens of millions of monthly active users on external third-party components built with SharePoint frameworks, which is really, really cool. And this is typical roadmap slide. I updated this with a one note, one additional item which has been requested us from quite a few times, which is to be able to override the new and edit panel or experience in a list or a library. So this is now something which we're actively looking into. Step number one will be that you will be overriding those panels, not the whole list experience. So you can take advantage of the out-of-the-box lists, but then when you click a new button or edit button, that will then basically give you the option to override the whole experience in the same way as Power Automate can be done, but you can implement that with a pro developer experience with SPFx. Now, I can't promise when, but it is being actively looked on, and good to see the reaction absolutely in the call. Cool. I think that's it from my side for now. Just a teaser related on Modernized app catalog. I completely forgot about that. I added this one in here. This one also is in testing. So we're looking into doing a full-fledged Modernized app catalog for SharePoint Framework solution, actually also for SharePoint add-in solution, which sooner or later are going to go away, just a word of a warning. But this is the tenant app catalog experience, and it's already being tested. This is a live picture from our eDocs, so we just need to get it through the experience review. But that's it. Throwing it back to you, Patrick.
Awesome. Thanks, Vesa. And now we'll move to PnP JS client-side updates with Julie.
Hey, thanks, Patrick. So we are announcing some great news on our version 3 update progress. We have reached all tests passing status in our local builds. So that is absolutely fantastic news. That means our code base is pretty solid. We are doing some cleanup, though, on our build automation tests passing to get that tenant that we use for that automation testing configured properly so that those tests pass that way as well. Again, we do that nightly build. So at this point, you can pull that at PnP SP at v3 nightly build and try that out in your SharePoint framework and your node solutions and see how it works. The 1636 issue has been updated as of yesterday. Patrick did a bunch of work to figure out what the minimum updates are needed for SharePoint Framework to get it working with the v3 build and updated that issue. So we have some new guidance on how to use PnP.js with SharePoint Framework. So check that out as well. That change log in the v3 branch is also up to date. So any deprecations or changes that we did make between v2 and v3 are outlined in that change log. So check that out. And I want to give a really huge thank you. And hopefully I'm going to pronounce this right. Ademisu Ayodele, maybe, and Peter Paul Kirshner, who did some great work, some v3 doc updates that were just excellent, and some great v3 testing that we super appreciated. So big thank you to both of them. And then, of course, please follow us M365 PnP.js on Twitter for all the updates and any news that we are putting out there. And so back to you, Patrick.
Awesome. Thanks for those updates. We are very excited. We're getting very close with v3. We appreciate folks jumping in and helping, especially because there's not a lot of documentation yet. So it shows a real dedication to jumping in. So thanks to everybody there. And thanks to Julie for all her hard work. She won't toot her own horn, so I will toot it a little bit for her. CLI for Microsoft 365 updates, new release 4.2 with upgrading SPFx projects to the new v1.13.1, retrieving files from large folders, retrieving content types from sites, retrieving list item attachments, extending uploading files to support resource-specific consent, and even more. You can always install version 4.2 with npm install-g at pnp/cli-microsoft365 at latest. And of course, they support this great Docker container experience. You can just run a Docker container with the CLI already set up inside it and use it from that Docker container. So awesome capabilities they've built out there. Check out the release notes. And certainly, if you haven't tried it, try out the CLI. It's a great tool to have in your tool belt. So certainly encourage you to check that out. Next up, SPFx reusable components. React controls 3.4.0 modern taxonomy picker based on new taxonomy REST API, the documentation enhancements and decreasing bundle size for the pagination control, as well as various fixes. Working on 3.5 with SPFx version 1.13 support coming soon. And then the property controls are out with a fast serve support and various fixes. Working as well on a version for SPFx 1.13 that will hopefully be out as well very soon. Thanks to all the contributors here on the reusable controls. So if you haven't tried those, definitely check them out. Great way to jumpstart your project and get a lot of out-of-the-box looking functionality without a lot of work on your part. So certainly give that a shot. Next up is Modern Search, and I think we got some special guests today to talk about Modern Search.
Yeah, so the Modern Search, so this is actually, the current version is the 4.4.1, which is the October version. We are planning to release a new version at the end of December as a Christmas gift for the community, of course. And yeah, we will see more in the demo, but basically a new version for December is expected. That's it.
Okay, great. Well, we look forward to that release and all the great work that's been going on behind the scenes to improve the PnP Modern Search experience. And with that, we will move over to updates about PnP samples with Hugo.
We have lots of samples out there available through multiple repositories, but there's two repositories in particular, the SPFx Web Part and the SPFx extension samples, that you can go download them. You can look at really cool design patterns. The samples can be from the simplest concept to some of them are like full-on, solutions that they're not designed to be used in production, but you can absolutely use them and convert them to do what you'd like with them. These are the samples that have been submitted for the last 2 weeks, or the updates for the last 2 weeks. On the SPFx extension side, we have a new extension that allows you to connect to Microsoft Clarity by João Ferreira. And we also have an update to the follow document extension by André Lage. And on the web part side, we have an updated React calendar that fixes the all-day event issue that keeps, it seems like every time we are improving the all-day features, it's preventing calendar entries from showing up on the next day when they're all day. And so that was fixed by our friend Mohamed Amer. And then on the follow document side, again, we have a web part version of this by André Lage as well. We have a lot of samples across various versions of SPFx, various versions of Node.js. So one thing that I would recommend, and all the samples are tested, by the way. So if you download the samples, it doesn't work. The first thing I would recommend you do is use the Microsoft 365 or the CLI for Microsoft 365, use SPFx Doctor. It will tell you exactly what's wrong with your environment if you have the wrong version of Node or anything like that. And if you're looking for a way to contribute, we always welcome people updating samples to the latest version. That way, other people don't have to suffer the same fate that you had to do. That's it for me. I think next is our friend David to talk about adaptive cards.
Awesome. Thank you, Hugo. Yes, we have adaptive card extension samples as well. This is the newest on the block for our repositories. So we have two fantastic contributions. The first one is My Notifications by João Mendes. And the second is Follow Documents by André Lage. Now, you see the Follow Documents is also coupled with the web parts there that Hugo had just mentioned. So that is kind of a package deal that's going to be working all together from André. And we're going to look forward to some samples by both of them here in the next month or so. So we look forward to that. Open for more contributions on ACES. And we know it's new. So we have absolutely a Sharing is Caring Viva Connections ACES Getting Started session coming up here. We're going to be scheduling it for February. It is going to be the first two-part session that we're going to do over the course of a week to get everyone involved. We're going to help you set up your environment, and then we're actually going to build some ACES together. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Be on the lookout. We're going to schedule that today. So later today, you'll be available for you to register. Amazing work, everybody. Again, thank you for all the samples. Patrick, back to you.
Thanks for those updates. And I want to thank everybody for the samples. Such a valuable thing for the community and a great learning resource and a great thing to check out every time you start a project. So thanks to everyone that submitted samples. It's so valuable for the community to have those available. And now we're going to step up to our optional picture time. So if you are interested, please flip on your camera. Vase is going to get the together mode fired up. And as folks start to fill in, those seats will fill up.
We are already recording. Quality is a bit bad, but it's going to get better, hopefully in a second. Or maybe the kit is consuming with 4K all of the capacity. Come on, zoom in. We can still get few people joining in.
All right, I'll go ahead and turn my camera.
There we go. Okay, let's do some hand waving, everybody. The quality is a bit bad today, unfortunately, because of the network issues, apparently, but awesome to have you all on the call. So really, really cool and great to see the faces of the community and a few more people jumping in. Awesome, excellent, cool. I think that's it for this one. Thanks, everybody. Really, really cool.
And next up are the demos. So Julie Turner is up for previewing the HtwoO React component library. Julie, take it away.
All right, so hi, my name is Julie Turner. I'm going to do a preview of the HtwoO React component library. So this is who I am. These are all my social media areas where you can find things out about me. I will skip right along. To start off with, give a level set on what HtwoO is. So HtwoO is an open source alternative for the Microsoft's Fluent UI web design system. And it was an HTML and CSS library written by Stefan Bauer. And so that is out in the ecosystem, and that is basically gives you a style guide based on that HTML and CSS to create implementations for any framework that you want to. And so if you go to that style guide, you can see all the HTML and then the names of styles that you can then import into your various projects to use those styles to get styled components that look exactly like the Fluent UI web design system. So that's wonderful and it's great, and you can build those controls from scratch, but it's a lot of work to do that every single time. And since a lot of us use React because that is the on-the-page framework that's used by Microsoft in their pages themselves and is used in the SharePoint framework pretty easily, I decided that it was a good idea to try to build all of the components that Stefan had styled so that we would have them as React components so that we could just more quickly use them in our projects. So I went ahead and built that library. And so to get started with the library, it's going to be very similar to using Office Fabric React. Essentially, you just create your SharePoint Framework solution with the React.js library. You install HtwoO React. So it's right now in a jokingly, Stefan made my release pre-alpha, so it's a pre-alpha release, but we'll be updating that fairly soon as we're getting very close to a general availability on it. So you install it using that at N8D, HtwoO React, and that current build is 21. So then you would create a class or function component, whichever you like. If you use React hooks, that's fine. Or if you use class components, that's fine as well. And then you import the HtwoO React component that you need. And if the component doesn't exist, you can create it. And so we're going to sort of walk through all that. Let me just show you. This is the example that I'm going to build. So this is a Teams splash card that was designed by Stefan. So you can go and look at that, and it has multiple different subcomponents. So Stefan's HtwoO and CSS is built on something called atomic design, which means that he takes each one of these components and breaks them down into their smallest pieces. So we have here an image and a title and a description and buttons, and those are all what we would call atoms. And then they can get merged together into higher order components. So two buttons together in this layout becomes the footer for the splash card. And the image, title, description, and footer all together become the card that is in the card container. So these are the different levels of the controls that we have in the library, and that's how everything is broken down. Okay, so enough with slides. We're going to sort of stop this, and I'm going to move over to the documentation. So I mentioned getting started in SharePoint Framework, and that I have that documentation here, although this library is not dependent on anything about the SharePoint Framework. It could be used in any React project that you're building. It doesn't have to be the SharePoint Framework, but since most of us on this call are going to be using the SharePoint Framework, we're starting there with some getting started docs on that. Okay, so I'm just going to walk through my getting started doc. So we, over on the left, you can see some navigation, and that shows our getting started page. And then we have documentation on all the atoms that I've created, all the molecules that are created, and all the organisms that I've created thus far based on Stefan's more complete, and actually I should probably pull that up really quickly. Let me just put that in here. Pattern Labs documentation. So this is his HTML and CSS documentation. And so I've been slowly but surely going through here and building out each one of these controls. So if I go to checkbox, we can see the handlebars template or the HTML template for an input for a checkbox. And essentially, I've just made that checkbox also a React control. Okay, so let's come back over here. We have the getting started. And so what you would need to do is, like I said, install the library. And I didn't put the version number on the end here because this is the documentation, not the pre-documentation. And then what we want to do is add a reference to the HtwoO core styles. And so this library here, the HtwoO React library, takes a pure dependency on HtwoO core. So when you install it, it's also in your NPM modules going to install the HtwoO core library. So you will have both of them there, and you're going to need to import the styles prod build into your SCSS file for the SharePoint Framework solution. I'm going to show you all this in just a second. And then we're going to initialize some icons. I'm going to show you that. And then we're going to initialize theme support by adding our supports theme variants and adding some helper functions that I've built into the library. And then we're going to put a component in. Okay, so I'm going to minimize this now, and we're going to come over to our project. So I've built a basic HtwoO React demo environment here. And so this is just a 1.13, I think it's 1.13.0 SharePoint Framework solution. It's a web part. It's just pretty basic and vanilla. I did uninstall the Office Fabric React because I didn't need that library. I just removed it, but it wouldn't matter because it does, since I'm not using it, it won't build in. And then what I've done is I've gone into my SCSS file for my components. And again, I had commented this out, and we have our baseline component, style here, and I'll get to why we need that in a minute, but I just set its content to nothing just so that it builds correctly. And then I did this, which is to add a global import of this style, which is the rolled up all the styles that you need from the library in the HtwoO core module. And the global here makes sure that when your component, your SharePoint Framework build happens, it doesn't namespace out all of these styles because we don't use namespacing with the HtwoO library. We need the names to be exactly as they're labeled in that style library. Okay, so then we're going to come over to our root web part TS file. And so what we'll need to do is add an on-init, which is an override. There's an on-init method in the base client-side web part class. And so we're going to override that. And then we're going to initialize our symbol set. And so what that means is I've added this helper function. There is a base SVG file in the React library that has some of the things that some of the base atomic components need, like a drop-down box needs a little caret SVG for that pull down and things like that. So we have a very small set of icons in the library that are sort of base to its ability to function. So we need to make a call to initialize those symbols. Now, because I know that you're going to want to have a lot more icons available to your solutions than just those very few that we have in the library, I also made it so that this function, the symbol set function, will also allow you to add one or more additional SVG files to it to register a bunch more controls. And so luckily, Stefan has also created another project that he called HtwoO Icons, which is all the Fluent UI icons. So it's the regular ones, the solid ones, and there's some page ones. Let me just show you quickly what that looks like. So that package, it's from the N8D HtwoO GitHub repo. Under packages, there's an HtwoO icons, and he is showing you here how that package is laid out. So when you import this build into your solution, you will get those SVG files, and then you can make reference to them. So you install the N8D HtwoO icons, and then those files are in your node modules. And since they're then in your node modules, you can import them in. So what I do is create a string constant where I require in that SVG file. And then I pass that into init symbols. And so once you do that, it will not only register those base symbols that the library needs, but also all of the icons that are in that SVG file. Okay, so that's a lot of stuff. So now we have all of those icons. Now, if I'm doing this, I don't need to do this as well. It's just sort of demo. So I could have this commented out because this one line will not only register the base ones, but they'll also register these additional ones. So then after that, we want to use or consume the theme provider that we have set up. So in our manifest here, we made sure that we have added supports theme variants to true. So that's in there. And then so back here, I've built a special extra feature that I called SPFx themes. It has an interface as well. And that does, if you've read Stefan's blog post about themes and how you consume themes, I've basically put all of that in a class so that you can just, with 2 lines of code, initialize all your theme handlers. So if you're in a web part where the theme provider is available, you would create a instance of the theme provider, and then you would make a call to initialize the theme handler and passing in the theme provider with the DOM element. If there is no theme provider, so if you're in like a application extension or something else where theme provider isn't available, you can make the call this way, which will use the page context SharePoint Framework variables to initialize the theming support for the controls. So that's how to set everything up. Okay, so now we've got it all set up, and now let's try to do something with it. So let me Control S this page, and I have gulp serve running. So let's take a look and make sure that everything is well in the world. And I'm going to do something I never do, which is I'm going to live code, which is just crazy silly. Why am I doing that? All right, we're good. All right, so I'm going to come back over to here, this getting started. I'm going to do probably the most simple thing, which is to come down here to this team splash card that I mentioned. And so on the docs, I have this theme splash card, and it looks like that. And oh, look, a kitty picture. I'm actually not a huge fan of cats, but that's fine. Okay, so we have a kitten picture. And if we come down here, we can see that we have a code sample. So I had clicked, the show code. It shows the code. And so now I can copy this section out here. And I'm going to Control C that out. And then we'll minimize this back out. And I'm going to go over to my demo. And so I'm going to paste that demo code in here. And it's a whole bunch of red squigglies. And so in the instance of saving time, I'm going to come up here. I have already pasted all the imports. And so what I want to mention about the imports is that they're selective. So when you are bringing in each of these React components, you're only going to inflate the size of your build package by whatever pieces that you actually need. But certainly if you need the whole library, if you just import it from there, it will import the whole library and you'll be good to go. So we need all of these things for our splash card. And then because of the way the samples work, I just need to sort of change these on click functions so that it does something else. And put a semicolon there, it likes that. And then we can do this, and we copy, and we can paste that. And I can save that. And now, hopefully, if all is running well in the world and we have no build errors, looks good. Then if I come over here and we go back to our hello world and we refresh, we empty cache and reload. There we go. We have the component all put in, all styled exactly the way we need to. So now let's say that we wanted to sort of extend this a little bit. So we know that we have the splash card footer here with the 2 buttons sitting on top of each other. And so what I'm going to just do is say, hey, how about I wanted to have a selection for the combo box, let's say. So if I come back over here and I go up to drop down, this is one of our more complicated controls, and I show the code for this. Here is our drop down, and so we have the options, the value. There's one piece that's missing from these docs. I'll show that in a minute. So we copy that out, and let's say we want to put our drop down here. So we can put our drop down here. We can set that after. We can set this after. And we can set that after. Okay, so let me come up here. So I'm adding the dropdown. So I need to undo that. So we have the dropdown. And then I created just a static, although I could pass it into a prop or whatever I needed to do, get it from a service. But here is the list of items that I want to have for my dropdown options. So I have, black, white, and orange as my drop-down options. So now I have this drop-down options values. And so I can say this dot drop-down options, and that passes that in. And this is giving me an error because there is one more missing attribute that I need. There we go. And this contains type ahead, and I'm going to just say false here because I don't need that. And one other thing I have to do here is give it a change event. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to, I have a drop-down value state property. And so I'm going to do something that I would normally not do, but is to say on change. And so if we hover over this, we can get some ItaliCense that says our on change event gives me the field value. So I know I'm going to have field value here, and I'm going to pass that into a function to set the state. So this dot set state, and then I'm going to set dd value is equal to field value, and I'm gonna one more over semicolon that, and I'm going to save that. And now, assuming that we are in good build stead, looks pretty good, I'm going to come back over here. And I'm going to end the cache and hard reload. And maybe one more. There we go. And now I have my drop-down list. Note there's no default value. So if I come back over here, if you see this value, it's set to Apple. Well, that doesn't help me very much. I need to use the state value. So I'm going to override this and change this to this dot state dot dd value. Save that one more time. Cache and hard reload. There we go. And we have our drop down now with all of our selection options in it. So that, I think, yep, good timing. So that was all that I wanted to show for that. Let me just show the slides again right here. I just want to share some resources. Okay, so here's some references. So the documentation that I was sharing for the React docs is there at lab.n8d.studio, HtwoO React. The icons are at that GitHub. So just go to GitHub n8d design HtwoO, and you can go down through the packages HtwoO icons to find those icons files. And then again, the base documentation for the HtwoO design patterns are right there at the root of that n8d studio URL. All right, that is all that I had. So back to you, Patrick.
Awesome stuff there, Julie. Thank you so much for that introduction to the work. I hope folks check that out. It's a really neat way to wrap all that stuff up. And to me, CSS is just a bunch of wizardry. So it's exciting to see that whole process get made a little bit easier. We can jump over to the last demo of the day. We could go to Frank and Mikhail. If you want to get started with the PnP search stuff, take it away, guys. Thank you much.
Yep. So for those who don't know me, my name is Mikael Svensson. I'm a PM working on Microsoft Search. I do some development on these web parts every now and then. So I just wanted to share a page which has been set up using the PnP Modernized Search Web Parts. So I actually had to call up one of my former colleagues at the Puzzle Part. So there's a guy called Paul Olav Loftusness who set up this page. So this is a page using the home layout. That means you have a right column here and then the main line. So we have a filter web part in the right-hand column. We have a search box, and we have a vertical web part, and then we have the result web parts. I also hidden the search box in the header to just use this page. So just to show that you can have pretty nifty pages actually set up using these web parts. Now, if I just switch between the verticals, then it just changes the queries and also the templates used. Also think there's a custom template used on these results. So these are not tags. This is actually the site name. So it's just a custom template used. And then we have some filters. I can do site. So if I pick my like PnP demo site, I will get whatever files is on there. So that's just showing you what you can do. And now I'll hand it over to Frank, and he will start with a blank page. And let's see if he can get up to something looking like this.
Yeah. Thanks, Michael. Okay, so a quick introduction about me. My name is Frank Cornu. I'm Microsoft 365 specialist and Office Development MVP. Today, we wanted to make this call to do a quick demo about the modern search and how to use it and how to get started with this solution, especially for new people who don't already know this solution. So this will be a very basic demo about the installation and the basic usage of this web parts. So first of all, this solution, how you can get it. It's all on GitHub. You have the Microsoft Search organization and the PnP Modern Search repository, and you can get the last release, directly from here. So the latest version is the October version. As I said earlier in this call, there will be another version in December adding new features. So the demo I will show you here will be based on the upcoming version. I won't go through all of these features, but maybe for another call, but I will focus on basic usage. So to get the package, basically you get the release here, and you have some package here to download. You have it is a regular SharePoint Framework package, so you can use it in a site collection app catalog or tenant app catalog. In this demo, for instance, I have a site here, and I just enabled the site collection app catalog, and I use it like in an isolated way in my site collection. So just put your solution in the app catalog, click on deploy, and the web port will be available on your site. So as a demo, we'll just take a blank page and see how you can make Search Center, like Michael just showed to you, a Search Center using these components. So I will start with the very basic components. Basically, when you install the solution, you have like 4 web parts included. The most important one and the main one is the PnP search results. So from here, basically, you can configure. You will have to choose that the data sources, and we expose the SharePoint Search, which is the original source from the V3 and earlier, and now the Microsoft Search source. So the first step is to choose which source you want to use. So I will do my demo with the SharePoint Search. So basically, when you click on the source, you will have a lot of options specific to that source. So if I go to SharePoint Search, I will basically find the option for the SharePoint Search, like query templates, result source, and so on. And Microsoft Search, I will have other options like entity types and so on. So it really depends on the source. So first of all, I will configure the SharePoint Search. So to get results from here, the easy way is to configure the query template. So in these specific fields, you can add your query in the keyword query language format. So refer to the documentation to see how you can build this kind of query. But basically, let's say I want to grab all the documents from my site. You can use managed properties like that, for instance, and you can also use tokens. Tokens are resolved from the context, from the bench context, and this way you can build like dynamic queries to get your results. So let's say I want to use the result from, I want to see the result from my site, this specific site, and I want to show only PDF, for instance. So, sorry. So when you do this kind of thing, the condition between managed property will be an AND, and if you want to specify an OR, you have to write it explicitly. So by default, is the AND. So if I do that and I click Apply, as you can see, all my results appear here. And from this page, I can also control some other options. For instance, as you can see here in the default layout, I have some weird stuff in the layout. And let's say I want to use my own managed property, SharePoint managed property. So as an example, let's say I have a document library with a taxonomy column, and I have all my document tagged with these taxonomy values. I can create a managed property from this column. So if I go to the search schema and I go to the refinable string managed property, which are basically placeholders that you can use for custom scenarios instead of creating new managed property, you can map the crawl property to a specific refinable that you can use in the model search. So let's say I want to use the refinable street like 02 mapped to the text version of the taxonomy term for my column. I mapped this and also created an alias to be used in the component. So if I go back to my page and let's say I want this value to be my managed property instead of the default one, I will use something called slots here. The slots are basically placeholders in your layouts. So it depends on the layouts, avoiding the necessity to customize the template and refer your specific fields. So basically, when you configure slots, you have default entries in this list, and these slots here are used in the layout. So you can change dynamically the value displayed in the layout. So for instance, I want to replace this value here. I will just go to tags and let's say add my managed property. And as you can see here, the managed property here is not listed. And if you want to use this managed property in this list, you have to first add it to the selected properties. And again, if I click there, the list provided here these are just suggestions. You won't see all the custom managed property here. These are just suggestions. And sometimes people are confused because they don't see their managed property. This is the expected behavior, and we can't, technically speaking, retrieve all the managed properties from the search schema. So if you want to use a custom property, you have to go to the drop-down here and type the name of your property. So let's say it's refinable string 02. I add it and I press enter to be to make this managed property available for my slots. So if I go back here and want to change this value, I'll go on customize and say tag, and now I will see my managed property appearing in this list. So if I just switch the value and save, as you can see, the value will be changed dynamically without any kind of custom development. So it's really easy to configure the layout this way. Regarding the layout, you have a couple of options in the next page. So the first page is dedicated to the source configuration, and the next page is dedicated to the layouts. So we provide like default layouts. So for instance, the default one is the cards, but we have also the detail list, the simple list, slider, custom if you want to go if you want to make a customization on the template, and also people, let's say, to build a people directory. And we also, the latest one is the debug option to explore the result and how values are retrieved within the search. So let's say I go to I choose the list here. For a template, this is always the same thing. You have the HTML template. So behind the scene, we are using handlebars HTML template. So it's a templating framework to build like dynamic HTML templates. You have also a special feature called result types. The result type is basically to make conditions about your results and to make display condition on it. So I will show you that. If I click on Edit Search Result, I can build like conditions to render an item in a specific way. So let's say I want to, I don't know, choose the title here and say if the title contains, for instance, Microsoft, it's a good example, I can completely override the display for this specific row in the results. So I can just go here, let's say, completely override the UI. I can go here and add and save. And as you can see, only the result with the specific condition will be processed with the template you provided in the result types configuration. So it's a pretty cool feature. Again, it does not require a lot of development. All you have to do is know some HTML or some basic CSS rules. So it's pretty simple. Or you can start with the default template and just update the default template. It works as well. So the next thing about the layouts, we provide some default option for each layout. So it really depends on what you are building. For instance, for the list layout, I can just add the icon, show the thumbnail or not, something like this. We have a couple of options here to customize the display. If I go to another, for instance, the display list, I will have other options. So in this case, for instance, I can customize all the columns and how they are rendered within the table. So a pretty cool option to customize to according to your requirements. I won't go through all of these options, but basically you have many options for layouts. And if it doesn't do the job for you, you can even customize the template from scratch and go with the extensibility framework we also provide. This is not the purpose of this call, but maybe on the next call we go we talk about this this option as well. So the next thing you're gonna find in the configuration option. So I'll go back to my list, for instance. So we choose the source, we choose the layout, and the next one is how we connect these things to other web parts on the page. So basically, how, for instance, I can use refiners with these search results. So I will add another web parts on my page, for instance, the search filters, and I have to make the connections between the search result and the search filters. So the first thing I'm going to do is go back to the search results, and on the search page, I will have a connect to filter web parts. If I enable this, I can choose the filter web parts I just added to the page, and I will do the same thing on the search filter. So it is a two-way connection between the two. It's really important to do that, otherwise this won't work properly. And from here, I can edit the filters. So the same as before, the field here in the list are just the field available in the current results. So if you don't see anything here, it means either you don't have any results in your search result or the connection is not made properly. So in there, for instance, I can choose to refine on the file type. Also, a very important thing here, the fields you are using here for SharePoint Search or Microsoft Search have to be refinable in the search schema, and really important. For instance, if I choose, let's say, title, this is not a refinable managed property and it won't work. So I have to choose refinable managed property. When I say refinable managed property in your search schema here, this column has to have the value refined here. That's why we are using refinables, date, string, and blah, 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 placeholders. And that's for this reason. So let's say I want to add the file type. I'll just take a display name. You have also the choice how many values you want per filter, and you can choose the template. By default, we provide the checkbox, that range, intervals, and combo box. I would choose, let's say, checkbox, and you have a couple of options, behavior options. If you want to expand by default the filter, if you want to show the counts, if it is multi-values or not, and if it is multi-values, you have the choice about the operator, the default operator you want to use in that filter. So let's say it will be a and. And if you add and save, as you can see, you will see the filters appearing dynamically depending on the search results you have there. So it means if I update the query here and I say, let's say, the wildcat character, I will have other values appearing automatically. So from here, you can just select a value, search a value, or select the operator between the value. You can do pretty much what you want here and apply, and the values will be filtered here. If you want to see the filters, the current filters combination appearing on the web part, you have an option in the search results, in the layout, in the common options. You will have this option to see the current combination you selected in the web part. So it can be useful. It can be useful to see what filters are currently applied. Last thing, or one option you can also do with this web parts is connect to a search box web parts. So if I want to use the search box web part to filter my results, the thing I have to do is create a search box here. So in this way, it is just a one-way connection. So the connection is made in the search results. On the search page, you will have input query text here, and you can choose static value or dynamic value. In this case, I've added a search box on my page, so I will select the dynamic value and connect to source, select my search box, and select the search query. For the value to be used in the query template or in the query, you have to use a special token here, so it can be search terms. So it is the default one for SharePoint, or you can also use input query text. It's the same thing. Okay, and this way, if I click apply, and I try to go to search, say, Microsoft, as you can see, the value will be filtered dynamically. And it works also with the filter and so on. The last thing I wanted to show you is the vertical web part. It's the last web part of the set. Basically, the vertical web parts allow you to browse data as silos. Basically, this web parts only controls the visibility of connected web parts. There is no magic behind it. It just controls visibility. So let's say I have a news tab. I have, let's say, documents. So the configuration is very basic for this web part. And I want to show this web part on the news tab and another web part on documents. So I will add another web part, let's say, here, a search result. Search terms, file time, blah, blah, blah. Yes, apply. And I can go to the search page, the connection page, and I can connect to a vertical tab. So let's say I want this web part to be displayed on the specific tab. I will select the documents, and I can do the same as well with the other web parts. So let's say connect to vertical, search, and news. So the final results will be something like this. As you can see, here I have only one web part displayed, and if I go on the document, the other will be displayed. So it covers pretty much the usage of this web part. Just the last thing, if you have any issues or question about the solution, please use the Issues tab. We have also a discussion tab we created times ago. So for questions, prefer to use the discussions tab instead of issues. So it will be easier for us to manage this. That's it. Thank you.
All right, thanks to all our presenters. Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Frank and Mikhail, for those great demos. And I want to thank all of you for attending the call. Recording will be available in about 24 hours on our YouTube channel, ak.ms/m365pnp/videos. Get all our updates on Twitter. Our next community call will be December 16th at 7 a.m. Pacific time. And the next general dev call, which is next Thursday, will be December 9th at 7 a.m. Pacific time. All the community calls and all the rest of the patterns and practices information is available at ak.ms/m365pnp. We've got developer community calls across many different topics. I encourage you to check all of those out. You can find links again at ak.ms/m365pnp. Thank you all very much. Have a great rest of your week, and we will talk soon. Bye-bye.
Awesome. Thank you. Bye-bye.